Chandler Chamber of Commerce is the third largest chamber in the state of Arizona, representing over 1,500 businesses with over 170,000 employees here in Chandler. I'd like to thank our candidates for joining us tonight and coming to discuss issues that are really relevant to our business community. This debate will be live broadcast on the City of Chandler's website, the City YouTube channel, and the local Cox Communications Channel 11. It can also be found at the Chandler Chamber of Commerce website. We would like to thank our sponsors, Intel and Southwest Gas Company. Without their contributions to our community, this event would not be possible. These sponsors are truly dedicated to helping businesses grow here in Chandler. It is now my pleasure to introduce Mr. Rick Human, our 2022 board chair, as he leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, can everybody stand, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Thank you, Terry. The Chamber plays a big role in the city in terms of public policy, and we are honored to hold this debate both for the mayoral situation here and also for the city council here in a little bit as well and stuff. So now it's my privilege to introduce our moderator for tonight's debate, a Chandler native who has served 7 terms as the mayor of the city of Chandler, along with 2 terms as a council member. In addition, he served 4 terms in the Arizona State Senate. In January 2019, Judge J. Tibshraeny began his first term as Justice of the Peace for the San Marcos Justice Court here in Chandler. It is my pleasure to introduce the Honorable Judge J. Tibshraeny.
Thank you, Rick. Good evening, and thank you all for participating. I would like to thank all the candidates for joining us tonight during this busy election season. I would like to outline the rules and the procedures for this debate. The Good Government Committee is an integral part of the Chandler Chamber of Commerce's public policy and was created for the sole purpose of candidate endorsements. The committee has created questions in a non-biased and business-oriented fashion for the purpose of defining the candidate's views on government and its role in the business community. In answering, candidates need to provide a brief and succinct response so that maximum amount of questions may be asked to both candidates. This forum is a civil opportunity for the candidates to discuss their ideas and philosophy on the nature of government and business, as well as the current issues that pertain to this topic. In order to fully clarify the candidates' views on specific issues, we ask that general information about a candidate's platform be laid out in their opening statement, their opening remarks. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening and 2 minutes for their closing. And they can use that time as they wish, a time to answer the basic fundamental questions of their campaign, as well as their specific engagement with the business of Chandler, in Chandler. Candidates drew numbers earlier this evening on the order in which they are seated. Candidates will provide a response to questions once we get to the questions for a maximum of 2 minutes. We will allow a rebuttal by the opposing candidate in this instance for up to 1 minute. Finally, in order for us to better evaluate the candidate's position and for the purpose of our live broadcast, we also ask that the audience remain respectful during the debate. Outbursts, displaying of signs, comments, and all types of other behavior during the forum will not be allowed, and anyone who engages in these activities will be disrupting the proceedings. So we just ask everybody to give the courtesy that we would all appreciate having. Please note, tonight's questions have been compiled by the Chandler Chamber's Good Government Committee through members of our business community. To take a closer look at each of our candidates, please scan the QR code on your screen or visit the Chandler Chamber's website for detailed candidate information that's available. Now let's get started for tonight's program. The principals, the candidates are Kevin Hartke, incumbent mayor of Chandler, and Ruth Jones, challenger. Looks like Mayor Hartke won the coin toss, and he will begin with opening statement, up to 2 minutes, and then we'll go to Ruth.
Thank you, former Mayor Tibbs Rainey, or I still call you my mayor, and all who are here. Before I address anything else, I'd certainly want to introduce my beautiful bride, Lynn, is sitting in the back. And Lynn is on the current cover of the Chandler Lifestyle magazine, and she is a sought-after speaker and is going to be sneaking out here because she also has another commitment tonight. But on Thursday, we're going to be speaking together at South Chandler. So we moved to Chandler in 1985 when we were in our 20s. Chandler had a population in the 60,000s, and now I'm in my 60s. So we've raised 4 kids who all thrived, excelled, and graduated from Chandler High and went on to either ASU or U of A, and currently have 4 grandkids and a rescue pup named Molly as part of our family as well. So daily, I look at the statement, Chandler has a bright future. And as mayor, I'm committed to continuing the creation of Chandler's legacy as a world-class community with great jobs, exceptional schools, and safe neighborhoods. I am passionate about all things Chandler. My schedule bears that out, and I'm not going to have time to share that with you now, but I've been serving and leading in Chandler for the past 37 years. I'm a business-friendly, hardworking, and engaged civil servant. I truly am passionate about all things Chandler, and serving on council and as mayor for the last 13 years combined has uniquely prepared me for a second term. I've demonstrated leadership in my first term that has brought jobs, expansions, and headquarters to Chandler, led the city to pass our first bond in 14 years, and successfully walked through an unprecedented crisis like the pandemic. I'm honored to be here, and thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Ruth Jones.
Thank you very much. I'd also like to thank the chamber and our moderator for making tonight possible. I would like to tell a little bit about myself as I begin tonight. I have my wonderful husband, Gordon, and 6 children. And the reason that I got involved in politics is because my oldest son, he spent 9 years battling cancer and passed away 5.5 years ago. I decided if I'd made as much of a difference in my life as he did in 17 years, that it would be worthwhile. I want you to know that I love this city. I love living here and I love being part of this community. But I think that we're at a turning point in our community. We have a good city with strong people who live here, but we've had a lack of strong leadership and a foreseeable vision for our city. We have serious issues that need to be addressed. We need to talk about rising crime, homelessness, and a lack of transparency for our citizens. I want you to know that I see these issues as not insurmountable, but as things that we can tackle going forward. I bring my integrity, my hard work ethic, my strength and dedication, and most of all, my ability to lead, to bring these issues to the forefront and keep our city going in a direction that we want for our families. I want you to know that what I want to bring to this city is a vision for our future, a vision that includes our families, our businesses, and makes us a place where everyone is happy and succeeds and has the ability to prosper. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go to the questions, and we'll start with Ruth, then we'll go to Mayor Hartke. 2 minutes for response. If the opposing candidate has something they want to bring up related to the answer, they get a minute. So here we go. Ruth, you're first. What purpose does serving on city council fulfill for you, and/or why is it important? And what are your 3 top priorities if elected, and why?
I think I already answered that. And I hope you mean mayor, because that's what I intend to be. But I think that the reason we need to be serving is because we have a community that's growing. And as our community grows and our businesses grow, we need to make sure that we have that vision that brings them to the future. As I've said, my top priority is our public safety. We need to make sure that we are supporting our police that we have enough officers to fulfill that job. We need to make sure that we are looking forward and not just serving for today. Our second thing that we need to be focused on is our homeless population. I believe that the rise in homelessness in this city is something that could alter our future if we don't address it and get a handle on that. I also believe that transparency is important. As your mayor, I'm here to serve. I'm not here to be in charge as much as I am to listen to your voices and make sure that you're aware of what's happening in your own city. I think it's important that we have a voice and listen to our residents as we move forward, as well as our business leaders, because they drive our economic prosperity. Thank you.
Mayor Hartke, you can either respond or you can answer the question.
I'll just answer the question.
Okay?
So my top priorities are hiring and retention across the city, certainly including our sworns and non-sworns that work for our police department. We are doing that and will continue to search out new solutions, but we are offering more solutions like the ones announced 5 days ago. We currently have hired 59 sworns and non-sworn as part of our police our police team since the beginning of 2021, 40 in this fiscal year. We'll continue till we reach our complement of 360, and in the current budget that we'll be approving, we'll be adding some more to the same. We put an additional 50 million into PSPRS. I plan on paying that down to zero in my second term. So number two is build out and housing that will accommodate the continued relocation of headquarters, building expansions, and more jobs to Chandler. We've never had more headquarters. We've never had more expansions or jobs in this community. We currently have 265 manufacturing companies in Chandler. And thirdly, working with council to keep the city fiscally sound, structurally balanced, and the cost of service low. We currently have the lowest cost of service that Chandler has ever seen, and we're lower than our neighbors, and this even includes sales tax. So making sure that we're continually prepared for the future fiscally is my goals.
And timekeeper, if you could turn the light on each time they start an answer to a question, not the rebuttal, but that was the actual answer. But if you could do that. Ruth, any rebuttal to the mayor's comments?
Thank you. I'll take just a moment. I think that we have done a lot in hiring. However, of those officers and sworns and not sworns, there's only been 3 officers hired. The rest have been staff. We need to make sure that our police force is being fully vetted with sworn officers. Those 3 officers have not even begun at this time. So we need to make sure that we have priority on the right employees as we grow. And while it's important for our businesses to thrive, and I think that is very important as well, as we approach build out, we need to make sure that we are bringing in the best businesses to make our future bright and to bring that prosperity we're looking for.
Okay. Next question. Start with Mayor Hartke. The last several years have been challenging for everyone due to COVID. How do you feel the city of Chandler handled the situation, and what could we have done better? 2 minutes, timekeeper.
Thank you. COVID was something that nobody saw coming, and I'll take the cue from one of our top businessmen, Michael Pollack, that said Chandler handled our procedures and processes through COVID better than any other city. And as a businessman I respect, I think his opinion also echoes my own. We did a good job of using our ARPA dollars and other federal dollars to keep people housed, to help with our workforce. We partnered with the chamber on some abilities to hand items like sanitizer and things to people. We worked with our IDA, our Industrial Development Authority, to give out loans. We worked with our Economic Development Department to make sure that not only with the loans that we were actually the gifts, stipends that we were handing out, but also directing them to the state and county to make sure that whatever was available, people had access. So I think I declared a state of emergency early with this, and every decision that I made alongside of council. So every decision, I called them and made sure that we were in agreement with this process. And we didn't walk through it just in my thoughts, but I made sure that the decisions we made were all of our council decisions. And I'm pleased with how we walked through COVID and without shutting down businesses or anyone else in our community.
Ruth Jones, do you want to just answer the question or do you want to rebut?
A little of both.
All right,
That's
we'll go
fine.
2 minutes.
Not having been on the council at that time, it's hard for me to say what I would have done differently. Hindsight is always 20/20. However, I feel that our city staff worked very well and that we had a good handle on our city being able to be safe and protected. I would have liked to have seen a little stronger leadership when it came to making some decisions, such as masking. I think that those things could have been handled in a faster manner. But at the same time, I recognize that during this pandemic, we
Okay.
were all learning and growing, and that it was definitely a unique situation. I do believe that our city plan, and when we have our 10 and 20-year plan, should be prepared for emergencies so that we're not caught trying to say, what should we be doing? Instead, we have processes to follow so that it's a smoother transition into something like this.
What do you think Chandler could have done better?
Well, again, I think that when it came time to make decisions about masking, there was um, a lot of hemming and hawing, for lack of a better term. I think that we were not seeing that leadership, and I felt a lot of times that we could have had a more positive direction and more quick leadership.
Mayor Hartke, any rebuttal there?
Sure, I'd love to.
1 minute.
1 minute, yeah. We never did put a mask mandate on, so there was no hemming or hawing. And I'm not sure my opponent was actually here during the entire time of COVID after just moving here. But I thought we handled it well, and we did an amazing job. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. If we start clapping, we're going to be clapping after every answer. So let's save that. We'll have a chance at the end to clap. Okay. Question 3. This goes to Ruth Jones first. A non-discrimination ordinance has been proposed by the business community. Do you support or oppose an NDO in Chandler, and why?
I do support the NDO. I think it's important for all of our citizens to feel protected and safe within our city. I also think that we need to be conscious of those that do feel discriminated against. But a greater issue for me in this subject is the idea that I believe Chandler should be driving their own decisions. Currently, there has been bills proposed in front of our legislature that would make an NDO that would be a state law. Some of the bills that have been brought forth are not good for our city and would hurt our citizens. I would rather have Chandler write an ordinance that's effective for our city, that takes into account the needs of our businesses and the needs of our citizens. And by doing so, we drive our own future and make our own prosperity. I also think it's important to know that since this is an issue that pertains to business, if our business community supports this, I want to be supporting them as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Hartke.
I'll just answer without rebuttal.
Okay. 2 minutes.
So I first served as Chandler's first Human Relations Commissioner chair for the first 4 years of its history. And we tackled some hard issues related to discrimination, equity, and inclusion in our city. I have a long track record of helping marginalized and disenfranchised people as a pastor, nonprofit leader, activist, council member, and now mayor. 2 years ago, I issued a proclamation stating the appreciation of our rich diversity, condoning or condemning biased behavior, and expressing a commitment to help anyone in Chandler experiencing discrimination. 2 years ago with council, I tasked the Human Relations Commission to survey our community and see how we could better address awareness, bias, and discrimination. And with council, I instituted both a diversity, equity, and inclusion office and a DEI study that's doing a deep dive looking at this issue both internally with city policies as well as outwardly looking at our community. I pledged and continue to pledge my personal advocacy and mayoral leadership to anyone and everyone in Chandler experiencing discrimination practices by the city, by employers, by housing providers, or others in this committee or in this community. Particularly with housing, my voice during the COVID has literally saved lives and made through the pandemic and got people who were experiencing. So I am not currently supporting an NDO because I believe that it's not the city's role to be determining or discerning microaggressions as opposed to other actions, as well as the process that would condone or condemn people's actions. So I believe we've not experienced this to a point where that is necessary, and my advocacy is far better than an NDO.
Okay. Rebuttal or next question?
I'll go with a rebuttal to that.
You got a minute.
I think that until you've experienced discrimination, you cannot say whether or not it's happened. So while I appreciate a proclamation, I feel that our city needs to have something that protects all of our citizens. And again, I feel that it's important that we remember that the non-discrimination ordinance would only pertain to businesses and what happens in the businesses. Thereby, if our businesses want this, we need to be listening to them, and we need to listen to our residents. I've spoken with many members of our LGBTQ community, and I know that they wish they felt that safe, and they wish they did not feel marginalized. So protecting them is something that we can do while we protect businesses, and that's an important thing.
Thank you. Next question is for Mayor Hartke. Question 4. What are your solutions to ensure Chandler will continue attracting new business and residents?
Well, we're at 95% build out. We are currently at 282,000. We're speculating to potentially by 2030 be up at 300 to 310,000 residents. Part of what I've done and will continue to do is be picky about the businesses that we support and that come to Chandler. As I mentioned, we have 265 manufacturing companies in Chandler, and we work hard to support them. In fact, when I leave here, I have to leave before the next debate because I committed myself to Intel to have dinner with a bunch of Ohio mayors and legislators that are concerned about Intel coming to there. It's my job as mayor to assure them how Chandler works well and will continue to do so. So we've got code that brings in the right kind of companies to our community. We work hard as a city to attract. Our code continues to adjust. I think our big issue and others that we're currently doing better than most taking care of is going to be water as a determiner. And Chandler does water better than anybody else. We recycle every drop that goes down your drains. We have policies that prevent people who are not part of our portfolio for businesses that we want to come in. And we just do it well. And I'd say, lastly, that if we do things right by getting the right companies on top, the economic multiplier of an Intel brings in 4 to 5 other jobs in our community. Supply chain, donut shops, gas stations. So we've really focused, laser focused on the companies that are part of our portfolio. And we talk about this in my strategic plan that we've worked out with council. And with that, I am confident that we'll continue to have a strong economic base and an attractive community to residents.
Okay. The question for you, Ruth, is what are your solutions to ensure Chandler will continue attracting new businesses and residents?
It's a good question. And I think as we approach build out, we need to also take into account the places in our community that become older or empty, storefronts that are not being used anymore. We need to make sure we're revitalizing those areas and making sure that we're putting the best use, the highest and best use to the land we have left. I think it's very important while we support our businesses to remember that when we bring a business in, it brings in residents. We want the people who work here to live here. So with the amount of land we have left, we need to make sure that we're looking for affordable housing solutions so that our residents have a good place to live as they grow into our city and feel welcomed. We need to make sure we have the services that they need and that we're providing all that's required. Um, I think as our businesses continue to develop and come into the city, we have opportunities to change the way we're doing things. For example, a lot of the larger big box stores are not in it, are not coming in, but there are many smaller stores that can be brought in and many family-owned businesses that can be supported. We need to make sure that while we're supporting large business, we support family businesses and all of the different types that'll be needed for our residents. Part of that is going to be ensuring that we have better transportation so that the people coming in have a way to get around our city as well.
Which leads us to our next question.
Do I get a rebuttal?
Rebuttal, 1 minute.
I personally want to thank my opponent for backing my policies of replacing the two major corners at Warner and Alma School and Kyrene and Chandler, of tearing down those big boxes and putting up attractive mixed use that will include apartments, that we will also pursue development agreements for workforce housing, as well as reinvigorating the local mom and pop shops around there. So thank you for your endorsement on that.
Okay. Question 5, Ruth Jones. How do you feel about transportation options currently offered in the city? Are the current transportation options sufficient for residents? What would you do for improvements? What do you suggest for the funding of transportation needs in the city of Chandler?
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's important for us to increase our public transportation. One thing that we need to be aware of is that as multifamily developments are brought in, those do not have enough space for vehicles. And so we need to make sure that we have the transit that they're looking for. I think we need to increase our buses and our bus opportunities. Currently, we only have buses in a small section of the city. We need an effective bus system throughout our city. A good example of that is a project that's going in down on Gilbert and Riggs that is going to be 500 homes, and it has not enough space for parking, and yet there's no public transportation at that location. So we need to make sure that we're addressing those needs. I think that we have an opportunity to use some of the infrastructure dollars from the current federal uh, bill to be able to subsidize that and also to be able to use funds we have within our current budget if necessary.
Okay. Mayor Hartke, rebut or answer?
Oh, I'll just answer, thank you.
Okay, 2 minutes.
So I've gotten myself to be knowledgeable on transportation. I currently serve as the chair of the MAG Transportation Policy Committee. I served as the chair on the Regional Public Transportation Authority, buses, as well as continuing with Valley Metro. And it's something that's been passionate to me. And we are doing a rideshare program because it doesn't make sense on city dollars to take empty buses down into South Chandler. So we are connecting them with a program that we're currently piloting right now that will bring them to bus stops. And we can do that it'll be faster for them without waiting on a bus, as well as it'll be less expensive for us without running bus lines all across the city. So we're checking out that pilot in South Chandler right now. Two things that have been really important to me with transportation that I've really been working on. One is the extension of Prop 400. I speak about that everywhere. That is the Valley's system that we need to re-up coming up here this next election. And I'm working, lobbying our legislators to pass it through the House as it has the Senate and to get it to the governor's desk. And speaking of the governor's desk, I will be there tomorrow. He's invited me to be there as he signs a major transportation piece that will benefit Chandler. The addition of $400 million for the completion of I-10 between Chandler and Casa Grande. That's a bottleneck. And once we get that done, that'll better serve us. That will also make Chandler more attractive for housing for people like my daughter who can't afford to live in Chandler but found a house down there. as well as mom and pop going to see the daughter down in Casa Grande.
Okay, rebuttal or answer?
Rebuttal.
Rebuttal, one
I think
minute.
I already did answer.
You did, I'm sorry. Rebuttal of the
I'm
mayor's
getting
answer.
lost.
My bad.
I think it's wonderful that he'll be able to see his daughter in Casa Grande, but I want our teenagers to be able to get to work. And that does require us to have better mass transit in the city. And rideshare is a great opportunity for some, but will not be available to all those who need it. In order for people who are living in high density housing or our youth to be able to get around safely, a bus is a good alternative. I say that as a mother of 3 children who I fear riding on certain roads in our city because of the congestion. It's good to be able to go and have breakfast with the mayor, but I want my children to be able to get to school safely. And that's exactly what I plan to do, is to make sure that they have those opportunities.
Thank you. Next question, start with Mayor Hartke. The relationship between the chamber and the city is an important one. In your opinion, what are the most pressing issues facing the business community that you could work on in conjunction with the chamber to keep our business community thriving?
Yeah, thank you. I've worked with the chamber and have attended events and have been involved really with the chamber since I first got involved on city council in 2008. And really because of that, the chamber has endorsed me in 2010, 2014, and 2018 for my partnership with them. And I'll continue to do the same. I love the way the chamber does an excellent job of bringing information to our community, of bringing hiring opportunities to our community, of bringing workforce development opportunities. And we have and will continue to partner on many of those things where obviously it's both of our best interests to make sure that Chandler is doing a great job with job attraction and job retention. And we both have a role in doing those things. It's sometimes it's kind of a left hand or right hand. Who's going to hear first and be the first to respond to a business that is coming to Chandler? Where they reach out to the city first, and then we'll work with them and steer them to the chamber, or will they reach out to the chamber and work with them and give them information and steer them to the city? So it's essential that we have and continue to have an outstanding working relationship with the chamber.
Rebuttal, Ms. Jones, or answer?
I'll answer.
Okay, 2 minutes.
I see the chamber as one of our strongest partners within our city. I think it's important to know that we want to have a city that has the best businesses. We want smart city technology. We want to be a hub for artificial intelligence. And working with the chamber allows us to be able to know what companies are coming and what partnerships we can make so that the technology that will bring Chandler into the future is available. I also see them as not just them or us, but as us working together as a team so that we're able to meet the needs of our businesses and we're prepared before the businesses come to us and want to come into the city.
Okay, rebuttal.
Yeah, just quickly. I think a good example of that, again, is we both work so well with Intel, and Terry Kimball, the president, spoke this morning first thing with them. I've addressed them at 10 o'clock and we'll be having dinner with these folks. So it really is, I agree with my opponent, it is our most essential relationship. I'd say the chamber, our school boards, our schools, and are essential relationships, both in workforce development and in making life the best for everybody in Chandler.
Okay, next question, we'll start with Ruth Jones. Public safety, and I know you both may have addressed this briefly, but the specific question is, public safety is an important issue for any city. With our police department being challenged to keep their staffing levels at a level that ensures the safety of Chandler citizens, how do you plan on ensuring we maintain our safe city status?
Well, the first thing we need to do is hire. Currently, our police force is lower than it was in 2008. We have 334 officers, and I'm excited that we're getting 3 more in. The city is currently allowed for 15 to be coming in to fill those vacancies with 25 for the future. But we need more than that. Our police force has asked for more than 83 positions, but I believe that number is low. We need sworn officers that can protect our city. One concern I have is that 84 of our officers are vested in retirement and could leave. We can't wait for them to retire to begin the hiring process. We need to make sure that we're hiring on a consistent, regular basis so that those officers are prepared and trained to take on those roles. One concern I have as well is that while we have enough officers to make a patrol complement, we don't have enough officers to staff task force. For example, we have had to get rid of our DARE program, which means no officers are going into our youth to get to know them and to introduce them to our police. We've also gotten rid of the police officers that ride motorcycles in the school zones to make sure our children are safe coming to and from school. Another example of where we need to make some change, our Internet Crimes Division has one officer to protect all of our children against internet crimes. We need to be staffing that department with at least 5. And so we need to be looking for ways to increase our force, not just have enough officers to patrol the streets, but enough officers to protect all of our citizens and make sure that as we grow, our police force is growing with us as well.
Thank you. Rebuttal of Ms. Jones or answer to the question?
I'll just answer the question.
Okay,
Thank you.
2 minutes.
Thank you. So I went back and looked, and in 2013, Chandler was rated as the 13th safest city in the United States. And the same accolades were 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and we were rated as the 23rd safest city in America last year. So that's to say, we have a very safe city, and that's part of the secret of why people are attracted to Chandler. Notwithstanding, we continue to be facing the same issue and problem that cities around Arizona and around the nation are in terms of hiring and retention of our police officers. We continue, as I mentioned earlier, we will offer more incentives. We're now offering an additional $5,000 if a lateral officer will move to Chandler from outside the county. We'll add that to the benefit that we're continuing to offer. We have hired, as I mentioned earlier, 59 sworn and non-sworn police officers or police employees that have worked on this. We will continue to hire till we reach a full complement of 360. And then next year, we've got in our budget to hire a mental health component, which will hire a couple more officers, as well as take other officers and civilians from other departments that will make up that complement. We did drop DARE, but we do have, I believe, 15 SROs, school resource officers in our high schools, in our junior highs that are partially Chandler employees. We've got grants from the state that also work for in our CUSD, as well as Tempe and Mesa and districts as well. So we certainly have an officer present at junior high and high school levels in each of our schools. And that's a program that I will continue. And then finally, again, the $50 million in PSPRS is a tremendous bonus that we will continue to make sure our offices have full retirement benefit.
Thank you. Rebuttal or next question?
Rebuttal for sure.
Rebuttal, 1 minute.
I'm passionate about this, sorry. I would like to again stress that of those hires, only 3 have been sworn officers and none of them has even started. But I'd also like to point out that while we do have low crime statistics in certain areas, other areas of our crimes are increasing. What are called Part 2 crimes, which would be your car getting broken into, or a smaller crime, we're not even reporting those on our statistics at this time. Those are on the rise. We also have to take into account internet crimes and identity theft, sex trafficking, which is on the rise greatly, and internet crimes against children. Having enough officers to have the patrol beat staffed is still not enough to protect our children in our communities. I want Chandler to be a safe community, And that is going to require a focus on hiring sworn officers that can get these things done and are able to protect us. In addition to that, I want to make sure as a city
Your time.
that we're listening to our citizens as they go forward.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mayor.
We're good.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Next question. Start with Mayor Hartke. Reliable water is a crucial component of any city. And I know you both have talked a little bit about water but the specific question, can you tell me what your plans are to ensure the city continues to have safe and a reliable water resource for years to come? I'll start with the mayor and then we'll go to Ruth.
This is one of my favorite topics because water truly is our lifeblood in Arizona. I've been very proud of Chandler that we have been an early adapter of a process that captures every single drop of water that goes down the drains, and we reuse those drops at least once. It's brought up to a quality of water that we can put it into the aquifers, that we can use it as recycled water in South Chandler, or we can use it as a bargaining chip to sell to our neighbors, the Grick to the south. We are also blessed in Chandler to have the deepest part of the entire Phoenix area aquifer, and we've been very diligent about recharging that. Our water levels have actually risen over the past decades since we have changed from being a farming community to a resident community, even with partners like Intel that use substantial water. We currently are employing a new technology with an advanced metering system that with this, we have a better idea of where our water is going. And at the end of this year, we'll have an app available on your phone that you can actually check your own water use, see if your sprinklers are leaking, see if you've got a pool leak. Heck, you can even tell if your spouse or child are taking too long a showers with this particular app. So water conservation is very important to us. Water acquisition is extremely important to us. Probably the one thing that keeps me awake at night with water is the governor has currently put together a water task force.
Seconds.
And as long as they stay to water acquisition, we're great. If it goes to reallotment, it's going to be a problem for us and every other city that's invested millions and millions. Thank you.
Thank you. Question or rebuttal?
I'll answer it.
Okay, 2 minutes.
Well, one thing that we need to be working on in our city as our city gets older is updating our infrastructure, making sure that our water plants and that our piping systems that run under the city streets are up to date. I know that's been looked at in a small amount, but we need to put a greater emphasis on that. That's something that we can use funds from the infrastructure bill to update our water. But I also think it's important that we need to keep our rates fair as we have our water service to our citizens. We need to provide service. We need to make sure that we have safe and reliable drinking water. It's also important that there's a consensus of our legislature, the Arizona Corporate Commission, and in addition to that, our utility companies, so that as we're providing that service, it's available for all people. And I think we need to work on our public awareness, making sure that our citizens are careful with their water usage and that we as a city are also careful with what we use.
Thank you. Rebuttal?
No.
Okay. Start the next question with Ruth Jones. How do you feel about the current city budget spending? What improvements would you make or where would you change spending? If you were elected, what steps would you take to ensure fiscal responsibility?
Well, I'm married to an accountant, so fiscal responsibility is my life. Don't laugh. I think that we have a good budget. Having just sat through the budget meeting and being able to see what we're planning for this year, I think that we have a good handle on our revenues and that we have a plan for our roads and development. But I think that as a city, we need to be careful about allocating resources to more important entities like our police, making sure that our staff, we have enough city staff, and that every position is filled. There's been a need to increase that. And because of an opportunity to be fiscally responsible, we've been a little more careful than I would like. We have currently over $110 million set aside in reserves. And so we need to be careful as we use our citizens' money that we're careful to make sure that we're providing their services that they need and not taxing them any further than they need to be.
Mayor,
I'll just answer.
okay, 2 minutes.
Thank you. So Chandler has long excelled as a city that has done a great job of attracting dollars as well as keeping dollars. We are one of the few cities that we can honestly say we're structurally balanced. And what that means is that we spend one-time dollars on one-time things and ongoing dollars on ongoing things. Where that gets important is that we can't spend one-time dollars on things that there is an annual cost that we're counting on a disappearing asset. For example, all the development going on in Chandler with Intel, that's a one-time dollar thing, although we're being able to add some of that. Something that's been really important to me is making sure that we can take our current boom of one-time dollars and turn them into ongoing dollars. A couple programs that I've been excited about is one is we've upped our streetlight program. We're changing out all of the streetlights from that yellow sodium halide to what's the word I'm looking for? LED. Thank you, whoever said that. And with that, once we finish this, we're going to save a substantial hundreds of thousands of dollars annually to do this. We're also paying off this year. We're putting $50 million of one-time dollars into our PSPRS program. That will, once we pay that down, we will save tens of millions, well, probably about $10 million every year, which is great. So I will continue to make sure that, and this year, by the way, my 7th year in a row of lowering primary property taxes because of the West Rand. We manage our money well. We will continue to do the same. Chandler is a leader of fiscal responsibility.
Thank you. Rebuttal?
That would be fine.
Fine, there is a rebuttal or?
Oh, yeah,
Okay, 1 minute.
sorry. I think it's important for us to be fiscally responsible, but I also think as we set our budget, we need to listen to our residents and what their concerns are. I'm glad that we're getting new LED lighting. That should have been in a while ago, and I think it's beyond time for that. However, it's important to note that while we're replacing the street lights, we still have been unable to light the alleyways and keep those safe for the people in our traditional neighborhoods. There are places where we have not spent what needed to be spent to keep our residents safe. It's the same with policing. When we keep our residents safe, those dollars were well spent.
Thank you. Okay. I think we have a couple minutes. I got a question. Do we have time for another question? I have one or two. Okay, next question. We'll start with the mayor on this. Mayor, chickens have come up recently, and that issue is working its way to the city council. Do you support or oppose allowing residents to have chickens in their backyards?
Boy, this is deja vu. So Chandler is one of 2 cities that does not allow chickens in the entire county. Avondale is the only other one that has restrictions similar to ours. We allow them in half-acre and greater properties. I think in today's world, there is a tremendous desire for people to grow their own food. So the kind of the urban gardening movement, as well as raise chickens as a protein source. So I think that it fits. It's something that I believe we should have done a while ago. And it fits with who we are as a city. It fits with people's desire to be able to save money and grow their own food, of which we're all concerned about. And it's a cool thing to do with kids as well. So I do support and having urban chickens in Chandler, up to 5 in the backyard.
Ruth Jones.
Okay, this is a question that breaks my heart. I love chickens, but even if you pass the ordinance, my husband wouldn't let me have them. So I won't be having chickens, but I actually do not support the chicken ordinance. And the reason is this, the chicken ordinance will not affect people that live in an HOA. Most HOAs do not allow chickens anyway. So where you're going to find these chickens is in our traditional neighborhoods. Currently, we have a problem with code enforcement in our traditional neighborhoods. As I've driven through them, I've seen cars in front yards. I've seen weeds that were overgrown. So if you're going to be adding in a farm animal, livestock to that environment, you're putting something that's going to be more difficult on those residents. What I would do is table the chicken ordinance for at least a year and give us time to work on our code enforcement and get those neighborhoods where they need to be. And when those neighborhoods are functioning better and we don't have the code enforcement problems, we can readdress the chicken issue. But for today, bringing chickens in is irresponsible.
Rebuttal,
Rebuttal.
1 minute.
So my opponent is right. These will not apply to HOAs unless HOAs want them. And then HOAs can decide, any HOA, whether they want to do this by looking at their own codes and covenants. So it would potentially be available for anybody else, but HOAs can do what they wish. And we did table this. I think it's been tabled for about 6 or 8 years now, and we've had a chance to look at it. And the people want it. It'll be a great thing for our community.
Okay, that's the last of the questions. We're going to go now to candidate closing statements, going in the reverse order of what we did with the opening statement. You'll have 2 minutes for your close. We'll begin with Ruth Jones. Ruth Jones.
Well, thank you. Again, this has been a fun night. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad for people to get to know more about what I stand for. And I just like to debate, so this was fun. But I think it's really important that we remember that our city is made up of people working here and businesses that want to grow here. It's made up of families that want to raise their children. I have 3 daughters left at home, and I'm hoping they'll stay close to home. My other son, I have several, but my son has moved away because there wasn't the opportunity for him here. I want our city to be a place where all of our families can grow together. To make that happen, we just need to be working together. We need to have that vision for the future, and we need to make sure that we're listening to everyone in our city. I want Chandler to be a place where all of us are safe, where our police are not only respected because we shook their hand, but remembered when we hire them. I want our city to be a place where we're able to have a job where we work here in the city and afford to be able to live here as well. One thing that I think is important to remember is that when we talk about affordable housing, we need to be talking not just about low income, but about starter homes, places for our children to have their first home. So I think Chandler's an amazing city. I'm grateful to be here, and I plan to be here for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Hartke.
Rebuttal? No.
No.
I agree with my opponent. Chandler is an amazing city, and I've been here a long time. I've been here 37 years of serving, of advocating, and I will continue to do so. I will continue to support Chandler's beautiful and wonderful diversity. I do want to thank the Chamber. And again, I thank you for endorsing me in 2010, 2014, and 18. And I'd be honored to have your endorsement again. I want to thank our audiences that are here live, as well as those who are watching. I'm not done yet with the great things that I'm tasked to do here. I'm relentless on supporting all things Chandler. I will continue to work to serve and advocate for our residents. I will continue to make sure that our city is safe. Our current type 1 crimes are the highest phasing. Our times have gone from 6 minutes to 4 minutes. Our Our second type of crime where our police respond to are now have gone from well into about 8 or 10 down to under 6, and we're going to get that under 5 as well. I'll continue to bring opportunities to Chandler. My connections go deep and wide. Many of you here have endorsed me. I'm endorsed by our Vice Mayor, Councilmember Stewart, Councilmember Lopez, Councilmember Ellis, Councilmember Harris, Congressmen, state folks, our assessor, Eddie Cook, and others have endorsed me because they know that I work well with them and will continue to do so. Business leaders, civic leaders across ages, across politics have endorsed me because we have and will continue to work well. You can learn more about me at kevinhartke.com, on my Facebook page, Kevin Hartke for Chandler, or Chandler Mayor, or other social media. Thank you for listening and watching, and I hope that I have your support to continue to serve you as Chandler's mayor.
Thank you. Okay. I want to thank both candidates for your spirited debate and discussion. Thought it was healthy. I would also like to thank our sponsors, Intel and Southwest Gas Company. Without their contributions, this event would not be possible. These sponsors are dedicated to helping businesses grow here in Chandler. Also like to thank the Chamber, Terry Kimball and her staff for the work that goes into putting on a forum like this. In this day and age of a declining press coverage of all political activities, except maybe on the national level, it's very important that information like this can be transmitted to our residents. So again, thanks to Terry Kimball, her staff. Thank all of you in the audience for joining us for the mayoral candidate portion of tonight's program. In about 15 minutes, we will begin the council debate. Thank you and have a good evening.